Hey guys, welcome to Relationship Stories with TaleTime. The first story is titled, Wife Cheated with My Best Friend. I divorced her and built a new life. The story starts like this. It was a humid summer evening when my entire world came crashing down around me. I had just gotten home from work, ready to relax after a long day at the office. As I walked through the front door of our modest two-bedroom home, I noticed my wife Sarah's car in the driveway. Strange, I thought. She normally worked until 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Honey, I'm home. I called out as I set my briefcase down. No response? I walked down the hallway towards the bedroom, figuring she was just taking a nap. That's when I heard the unmistakable sounds. Grunts, moans, the creaking of our bed frame. My heart dropped into my stomach as I slowly pushed open the bedroom door. There was Sarah, naked on top of our bed, her legs wrapped around another naked body. As my eyes focused on the man's face, I felt like I had been stabbed in the gut. It was Jake, my supposed best friend from college who I'd known for over 15 years. What the duck? I yelled in a primal scream. Sarah's head whipped towards me, her eyes going wide with horror. Oh my God, Ron. She stammered, struggling to find any words. Jake just stared at me with the blankest expression, not even having the decency to look ashamed or remorseful. Anger and disbelief boiled up inside me. You piece of crap, I roared, charging at him. Jake scrambled off the bed, brushing past me towards the door in his naked state. Ron, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you, Sarah cried out between sobs as she clutched the bedsheet around her body. Save it, I spat. Our marriage is over. Get your stuff and get the hell out of my house. As Sarah's cries of apology echoed through the house, I slumped down on the couch in the living room in a daze. My mind spun with a whirlwind of emotions. Devastated, betrayed, humiliated. How could the love of my life and my best friend since college do this to me? Over the next few days, the painful realities set in. Sarah moved in with her sister after begging unsuccessfully for my forgiveness. I cut off all contact with Jake after leaving him a scathing voicemail letting him know that our friendship of 15 years was dead. Divorce proceedings began soon after. I expected it to be fairly straightforward, since Sarah and I had no kids and few major assets. Little did I know it would drag on for over a year due to Sarah's vindictive behavior. She fought me on everything from alimony to who got to keep our flat-screen TV. Her lawyer accused me of cheating and endless other baseless claims. I quickly burned through a good portion of my savings just paying legal fees. At my lowest point, I started going to therapy to work through the emotional trauma. My therapist described it as the cycle of grieving, the anger, hurt, sadness, and feelings of betrayal that came in waves. Some days I would be functioning fine, handling the divorce proceedings head on. Other days, I would slip into paralyzing bouts of depression where I didn't want to get out of bed. Therapy was a slow process, but it did gradually help relieve some of the psychological burden. My therapist pushed me to pick up new hobbies and rediscover my identity apart from the failed marriage. I took up cycling, joined a book club, and even tried my hand at pottery. Little by little, I felt more like myself again instead of just living in constant misery. Finally, in August of the following year, the divorce was finalized. Neither of us walked away with much financially, but I was just relieved to have closure and start rebuilding my life. Any resentment towards Sarah was gone. I just felt apathy and disinterest in having her in my life whatsoever. As the dust settled, I realized I had lost a significant amount of my identity and self-confidence from the betrayal and toxic divorce proceedings. My job performance had slipped, causing me to get passed over for a promising promotion opportunity. While understandable in the circumstances, it still stung and made me want to get my career back on track. That's when the idea of starting my own business came to me. With my background in software, I decided to bootstrap my own app and mobile game development agency. I spent months teaching myself new programming languages in my spare time, watching online tutorials, and networking with other developers. Finally, after putting together a solid plan and portfolio of prototype game demos, I raised a small amount of seed funding to officially launch my company, Ron Soft Games. I rented out a tiny office space and got to work finding clients and building my team. At first, it was just me wearing every hat: developer, project manager, sales, accounting, you name it. I worked insane hours, motivated by a relentless drive to succeed and shed my feelings of failure. Slowly but surely, my first few clients started rolling in. Some small mobile games and basic app builds. Each new client win boosted my confidence tremendously. Before I knew it, I had hired my first employee, then another, and another. I was forced to move into a larger office space as the company grew. Over the next 5 years, Ron Soft Games became one of the most prestigious mobile app and game agencies in the region. We built games for major brands, and even had a few hits that made it to the top of the App Store charts. My personal net worth skyrocketed from the success. But more importantly, the business gave me something to be proud of, a huge rebuilding of my self-worth after it had been decimated. Where I was once the jilted husband who couldn't keep his wife faithful, I was now an accomplished and respected CEO. I also made sure to create a strong culture at Ron Soft of integrity, loyalty, and treating employees like family. Maybe it was a slight overcorrection from the betrayal I had experienced, but I deeply valued protecting that sense of trust among my team. My newfound professional success and personal growth made me realize I was ready to open myself up for dating again. At first, I was admittedly hesitant, still haunted by what Sarah had done. But I reminded myself that not every person is as deceitful and untrustworthy as her and Jake. I met Annie about 2 years after finalizing the divorce. She worked in tech sales and we matched on a dating app. After getting to know her better, I felt myself gradually letting my guard down and learning to trust and be vulnerable again. What struck me about Annie was her integrity. She was unapologetically honest and would never dream of cheating or mistreating someone. As our relationship grew deeper, I knew I had finally met someone with strong enough character and principles to trust fully. I proposed to Annie after 3 years of dating, and we had a beautiful small wedding ceremony surrounded by my wonderful group of friends and colleagues. A brand new chapter was beginning. Which brought me to last month, around 8 years after walking in on Sarah's affair with Jake. Annie and I were hosting a housewarming party at our new place in the suburbs, a place I could have never afforded during my previous marriage. Tons of friends, co-workers, and even Annie's family members were in attendance. It was shaping up to be a joyful, celebratory evening. That's when I got the text from an unknown number. "Hey Ron, it's Sarah." I stared at the message, my face going pale as I fought the urge to immediately block the number. I hadn't heard from my ex-wife in over 5 years. Against my better judgment, I clicked over to read the rest. "I know this is coming out of nowhere, and you probably never want to hear from me again. But I've hit rock bottom and I'm desperate. The divorce ruined me financially, and I haven't been able to get back on my feet. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment, working as a cashier at McDonald's. I'm even late paying my rent." I continued reading in disbelief, already dreading where this was heading. My suspicions were confirmed a few paragraphs later. "I've paid such a huge price for my mistakes, and I want you to know I'm truly sorry for how much I hurt you. I was actually hoping we could meet up to discuss, and maybe you'd be open to giving me another chance. Obviously a lot of time has passed, but I've never stopped loving you. Maybe we could start over?" I felt my whole body tense with rage. After everything she had done, she had the audacity to try crawling back into my life like this? I started typing a blistering response, but then another message came through, this time from an unfortunately familiar number. "Ron, hey man, I don't know if Sarah reached out to you, but we figured it was time to bury the hatchet after all these years. I know I made a huge mistake and deeply regret betraying your trust like that. I was hoping we could talk." It was a message from Jake, the very same man I had once considered a brother. I stared at my phone, utterly disgusted. These two horrible people were not only still together, but they actually thought I would be open to rekindling my relationships with them? After the unspeakable trauma they had inflicted with their affair and dragged out divorce proceedings? I began laughing out loud in disbelief and anger. Annie looked over at me with a concerned look. "Babe, what's up?" I simply shook my head, deleting Jake's message without a second thought. I pulled up Sarah's message and began typing a response. "Sarah, you've got to be out of your damn mind if you think I would ever want you back in my life after what you did. I worked hard to move past your betrayal and rebuild myself into a person of respect and integrity. I built a multi-million-dollar company through tireless work. I met an amazing woman who I trust completely, and married the love of my life. You clearly haven't changed one bit if you think you can just easily slither back in after cheating on me with my best friend. I hope you can eventually find peace and get your life in order. But I want to make one thing crystal clear. I have zero interest in reconnecting or giving you a second chance. Take care." I drew a deep breath and hit send. The weight that had been suffocating me ever since I saw their names finally lifted. I looked over at Annie, giving her a smile as she stood with my colleagues and friends who had become my second family. They had given me the support system to regain my self-confidence and thrive. For so long, I had let the betrayal of Sarah and Jake bury me in resentment and self-doubt. But in that pivotal moment, sending that final rejection message, I fully let go of the past and embraced the incredible life I had rebuilt. A future of happiness, success, and surrounding myself with people of strong moral character. A life that once seemed so far away when my marriage imploded. I rejoined the party, raising a glass to my loved ones and toasting the bright outlook ahead. No longer would I be the broken man who got cheated on and had his life torn apart. I was so much more than that. A devoted husband, a thriving entrepreneur, a trustworthy friend and leader. That immense personal growth and transformation was something Sarah and Jake would never comprehend. In a twisted way, I almost pitied their small, hollow existences if they thought the answer was trying to worm their way back into my life. They were the ones who would remain stunted, carrying the shame and regret of their misdeeds while I continued rising to new heights. As the party carried on late into the night, filled with laughter and joyful memories being made, I felt a profound sense of thankfulness for how far I had come. Sarah and Jake's affair was undoubtedly one of the most traumatic, difficult experiences of my life, but I had taken that pain and used it as fuel to redefine my purpose and become a stronger, more resilient man of uncompromising principles and ethics. I had shed my victim mindset and now stood tall, having defeated their selfish demons to emerge victoriously. My new life was just beginning. and no ghosts from my painful past would ever be welcome to darken the doorway again. Update: it's now been over 3 years since Sarah and Jake tried slithering their way back into my life at the housewarming party. I never responded to Jake's message, but Sarah just wouldn't take the hint that I wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. After I had firmly shut her down and told her not to contact me again, she spent the next several months bombarding me with passive-aggressive emails, texts, and even handwritten letters trying to pull on my heartstrings. She claimed she had changed and paid her dues after hitting rock bottom. She begged for my forgiveness and a chance to explain herself over coffee. At first, I took the high road and simply ignored each message, not wanting to give her the satisfaction of a response. But Sarah became increasingly unhinged, with the emails and letters growing longer, more frequent, and more unsettling in their tone of desperation. One voicemail in particular really set me over the edge. It was Sarah sobbing uncontrollably, pleading with me to take her back because her life was ruined without me. She claimed Jake had become abusive, and she had nowhere else to turn. As disturbing as the message was, I didn't believe a word of it. Just another cry for attention and attempt at manipulation. With Annie's support and the advice of my attorney, I decided to pursue a restraining order against Sarah to get her unhinged harassment to stop once and for all. I had printed out dozens of examples of her persistent unwanted contact, from the emails to text messages to handwritten letters. As I sat in the courtroom waiting to plead my case in front of the judge, Sarah actually had the audacity to show up and try defending herself. She put on a sickening performance, fake crying to the judge about being a changed woman and just wanting closure from me so she could move on. She claimed I was being cruel and depriving her of that after everything she had been through. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the same selfish, delusional person who had cheated on me with my best friend for who knows how long, lied about it to my face for God knows how long, then dragged me through a traumatic divorce just to be vindictive. She had clearly learned no lessons whatsoever. When it was my turn to speak, I laid out the facts in a calm, rational manner for the judge. I explained how Sarah's betrayal and infidelity had been deeply traumatic, and it took years of work to rebuild my life and sense of self-worth. I made it clear that despite being divorced and moving on, she had repeatedly tried to force her way back into my life against my wishes through a horrifying campaign of harassment and delusion. I read out loud some of the more unhinged messages Sarah had sent over the months, including the voicemail claiming her life was ruined trying to emotionally manipulate me. When I was finished, the judge looked at Sarah in disbelief. "Ms. Baker, this man has made it repeatedly clear he wishes to sever ties and move on after your adultery. Your persistent unwanted contact despite his clear wishes qualifies as harassment and emotional distress. I have no choice but to grant the restraining order based on these disturbing examples." Sarah began wailing in the courtroom like a petulant child who didn't get her way. She launched into another fake sympathy act about just wanting closure and pleading with me one last time. The judge sternly warned her that another outburst would mean being taken into custody. As we were leaving the courthouse, Sarah shouted out a final desperate plea to give her one last chance. I didn't even turn around, ignoring her completely as the bailiffs ushered her out of the building. At last, I could close this unholy chapter of my life once and for all. The restraining order was a massive relief, freeing me of that never-ending source of stress and fear that Sarah would never stop harassing me. For the first time in ages, I could go about living my life without having to worry about getting another deranged message popping up on my phone or in my email inbox. Annie and I could finally put this all in the rearview mirror and look ahead to our future together. We had put off having kids for a while, since the pregnancy with our first child sadly ended in a miscarriage about a year after we got married. We didn't want to bring a child into the world with the chaos of Sarah still looming over us. Now that she was legally barred from any contact, we decided to try for kids again. After another emotional roller coaster of fertility struggles and treatments, Annie gave birth to our beautiful twin daughters Ella and Emma in the summer of 2022. Holding those two bundles of joy in my arms, I was overwhelmed with gratitude for how my life had turned out despite the darkness of Sarah's betrayal. Annie is the most loving and devoted mother, her face still lighting up with disbelief that we created two amazing little humans. Last I heard, Sarah was working some dead-end job out in the Midwest, still stuck in the cycle of chaos and delusion that defined her life. No surprise there. As for Jake, who knows where that weasel slithered off to? I truly don't care, and haven't given him a single thought in years. My company continues thriving, hitting major growth and profitability milestones year after year. We moved into our dream home in the suburbs with a beautiful backyard for the girls. I take them to the office occasionally to pet the company dog and goof around at my desk. Watching their little faces light up with pride always melts my heart. At my 20-year college reunion recently, I was the most successful guy in the room by far, both financially and in terms of my loving family. No one would have ever guessed how close I had come to having my life derailed in my late 20s by that traumatic chain of events. Looking back now, I'm almost thankful for what Sarah did even though it devastated me at the time. Her betrayal forced me to rebuild myself into a man of stronger character and integrity. I refused to let her actions define me or bring me down into the gutter with her. My breakdown ultimately became a catalyst for my biggest breakthrough in life. I beat the odds by overcoming the hurt and embarrassment to become an even better husband, father, boss, and overall human being. While Sarah and Jake remained stuck in the past, constantly reliving their selfish misdeeds and unable to move forward, I soared gloriously into the future surrounded by Annie and our beautiful children. Overall, the restraining order gave me that final sense of closure and victory. It was the judge's ruling essentially saying this man has moved upwards and onwards in life, while you remain weighing him down with your toxicity. Cutting that anchor's chains away freed me to reach new, unimaginable heights of success and personal fulfillment. I've achieved the happy ending that Sarah and Jake deprived themselves of years ago through their immoral choices. Annie and I are celebrating our 5-year wedding anniversary next month by renewing our vows in front of our kids and closest friends. We're so thankful to be on this incredible journey of love and adventure together. I sincerely hope Sarah and Jake can eventually find peace and growth, although I have zero interest in being part of their lives again. My future is reserved strictly for people of integrity whom I can trust completely, something they failed at miserably. In the end, I raised my glass to a life well lived, not a life merely survived. And I'll continue savoring this victory for many more anniversaries and milestones to come. I won by becoming better, not bitter. A user in the comments said, "Damn, this story really hit home for me. I've been in a similar situation with an ex who cheated, and the feelings of betrayal and having your whole world turned upside down are just gut-wrenching. I vividly remember the knot in my stomach when I realized something was going on. Little things, like my ex being extra protective over his phone and always rushing away to take calls in private. The constant nagging feeling that he was hiding something from me. And then finally catching him slipping up and seeing those damning texts from some random chick. In that moment, it feels like your heart just shatters into a million pieces. You replay all the special moments and memories in your head, torturing yourself by trying to figure out when exactly it all became a lie. The person you loved and trusted most in this world revealing themselves as someone capable of absolute cruelty and deceit. I pretty much became a hollow shell of a person for months after that. My self-esteem was shattered. I could barely get out of bed some days, and I constantly questioned my self-worth and whether I had done something to cause it. Logically, I knew it was his failing and not mine, but emotionally, it's just this dark void that swallows you whole. What got me through it was finally realizing how lucky I was that his true colors had been revealed before things went any further. Like if we'd gotten married or had kids. As painful as it was, I needed to be grateful I had dodged a bullet and could walk away with just mental anguish instead of legal/financial nightmares on top of it all. I also had an amazing support system of friends and family who rallied around me without judgment, letting me vent and reassuring me that I deserved so much better. Having that cast of people in your corner who will love you unconditionally when you're at your lowest point is absolutely priceless. From there, it was a slow journey of rediscovering myself and my self-worth. I started going to therapy, picking up new hobbies, doubling down on my career ambitions. Bit by bit, I felt myself becoming a stronger, more confident version of my former self. It took a long while before I was ready to date again, but I emerged from that experience with such a keener sense of what I wanted and deserved in a partner. Anyone exhibiting even the faintest whiff of shady behavior got the boot immediately. I had been burned hard, but it made me laser focused on finding someone with unshakable integrity and character. When I met my now wife, what struck me was her unwavering honesty and trustworthiness. From the jump, she carried herself with such authenticity and principles. She was so mature in communicating her wants/needs, and never played petty mind games. I felt so secure in ways I hadn't experienced before. We've now been happily married 5 years with an amazing son. While the pain of betrayal never fully goes away, I'm so grateful for how that experience reshaped me into a stronger person capable of attracting an amazing partner and building a wonderful family. My cheating ex ultimately did me a favor by showing his true colors before we went any further. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. If you enjoy my content, please like the video, comment with some clock emojis to show your support, and subscribe if you have not done so already. Thanks a lot, and I will see you again tomorrow.